In month 3 of my Liquor Loot subscription, they provided a sample from the Yoichi Distillery that's located in Hokkaido in Japan. I have to admit, at the time I tried it, I'd never tried a Japanese whiskey before. Not only that, it's lightly peated. That's right, peated. So knowing that I haven't been a big fan of peat at this point, let's see whether a light peat is more to my tastes. This is Whiskey. I'm John Chidgey. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube, and visit engineer.network/whiskey without the E to learn how you can support the show. Thank you. You can pick up a bottle of this stuff for about $150 Australian. It has a 45% ABV, no age statement, and it's neither chill filtered nor coloured. And it was released originally in 2016. It's now considered to be one of their core range whiskies. This is not technically the first peated whiskey I'd tried. Others included the Talisker 10-year and the Lagavulin 16-year, for example. Whenever I see a whiskey that's peated, I try and figure out where the peat actually comes from. And since there are limited peat sources in Japan, in this case it turns out that the Yoichi Distillery did use exclusively sourced peat for a short period of time. However, by the 2010s, it was importing most of its peat from Scotland. That said, I couldn't determine where in Scotland, Islay or Highland or anywhere else for that matter. Somewhere in Scotland. So it says. The Nikka website is refreshingly scant on details, only really saying the following, and I quote, "Bold and strong, with refined peaty notes and smokiness brought by the traditional direct cold-fired distillation. Sea breeze from the Ishikari Bay delivers a briny hint to the whiskey during maturation." Well, alright then, that's delightfully colourful. The Nikka Yoichi Distillery was built in 1934, led by Masataka Taketsuru, who, according to the Nikka website, was the first Japanese who mastered whiskey making in Scotland. Yoichi was the place chosen by him to build the distillery since it was close to the ocean and surrounded by mountains on 3 sides, and that shared a lot of geographic similarities with the Highlands of Scotland, where he learned how to make whiskey. Now, the website goes on to add that it has a cold climate with an appropriate humidity, crisp, clean air, and fresh water. Everything necessary for his ideal whiskey. Okay, well, that's great. So let's see then. The Liquor Loot tasting notes say the following. On the nose, an elegant peat smoke greets the drinker, followed by some grilled peach, toasted malt, charred oak, and toffee. Yoichi opens up to offer bittersweet coffee beans and dark chocolate. For the taste, they say, surprisingly fruity after the nose, with honeyed notes of apples and pears. A coastal peat smoke returns alongside cinnamon, black pepper, lemon rind, vanilla, and more barrel char. The finish is a distant peat smoke, sea spray, and spiced marmalade, combined in this opulent, lengthy finish. A bonfire at the breakfast table. Why are you drinking this at breakfast? Never mind that. Okay, well, let's have a taste now, shall we? First of all, let's start with the colour. It is quite a light colour. It's a light amber. It's not coloured, so that's okay. It's not age statement, so you have no idea how long it's been sitting in there. Having a look at some of the legs. Honestly, not many. Taken a while. I'm wondering if it's the cold glass because of the air conditioning. It's possible. In any case, oh no, there we go. Whoa, very slow running. Lots of them. Interesting. Okay, fair enough. Again, it could be the cold glass. I normally don't have my glasses that cold. It's not that cold, but probably affecting it. All right, so let's see. Well, obviously, funnily enough, I can smell peat. But the good news is, unlike something like a Talisker 10 or a Lagavulin 16, it's not blowing my nose off. It's really not that offensive, actually. I was quite offended by peat when I first tried it. And honestly, this is not that bad. I can almost smell a little bit of grassiness in that smoke. Like, it's not so overpowering. I can actually separate some of those layers in that scent. It's almost a little chalky smelling. Okay, let's see what else I got. I can definitely smell a little bit of toffee on that. You got to let that smoke kind of dissipate a little bit. All right, let's have a sip. Whoa. Okay. Definitely got some cinnamon there. Definitely taste a little bit of burn on that. And that peat disappears relatively quickly on my palate, but characteristically with a lot of peated whiskies, I'm breathing a little bit of smoke. But it's not like a Talisker where I breathed out and I can just get nothing. It's like I'm smoking as I'm breathing out. It's kind of crazy. You taste the smoke breathing in, you taste it breathing out. I'm getting this this charring, charcoaly kind of taste on my palate now. Actually, on the finish, it's really not what I expected. It's quite fascinating. Actually, it's a bit complicated. Okay. Didn't quite get as much in that mouthful, so I definitely got the lemon that time. Also definitely getting that vanilla. Honestly, it's it's different, eh? It's not bad. It's not necessarily my kind of thing yet, but I have to admit I like it a lot better than the heavily peated whiskies I've had in the past. So maybe that's the trick. If you want to actually learn to appreciate peat, maybe the thing is to start off with a nice, gentle lightly peated whiskey, something like this one. Because honestly, it's not overpowering, it's not offensive in any way, and it backs off enough to let you unpack the rest of the flavors underneath that. And honestly, that has got quite a long finish. It's still going. And it's relatively pleasant. It's strange though, because ordinarily I prefer like a sweeter sort of an aftertaste, but this doesn't really have that. But that doesn't mean that it's unpleasant. I mean, I guess it's the difference between maybe someday you feel like a savory dish and sometimes you feel like a sweet dish. Maybe that's the way I need to start thinking about peat, is that peat is just a very different kind of an experience. It's not good or bad necessarily, it's just different. And I'm trying to understand it. I want to understand it. And honestly, as whiskeys goes, this isn't too bad. So, one more. There is a little bit of bitterness in there. Maybe that's what they mean when they're talking about the dark chocolate. There's a little bit of bitterness in there that I would also associate with a very dark chocolate. Well, I've got to admit, I'm pleasantly surprised, genuinely surprised. I didn't think I was going to really enjoy this, but turns out it's actually not that bad. The problem I have with it is, let's go through the rankings. So at this point, it's a 2 for cost because it is quite expensive. Well, it's not quite expensive. It's affordable for a good whiskey. If you like a good whiskey, you'd be prepared to pay about $150 Australian for one. That's fine, But in terms of the quality, well, that's the real question, isn't it? Just looking at the chart, honestly, buying this as a mixer would be some kind of a crime. I would not be mixing this. No, don't do that. And I think that it's a nice drink for some occasional variety. But I'm not going to go to this and it doesn't make me smile, but it does make me think, which is a different kind of good. It's complicated, and it's something I need to understand better. Clearly, I need to drink more of it. Well, I'll do that in a minute. So overall, I'd say it's a 2. A nice drink to have for some occasional variety. And because of the higher price, you simply can't avoid the fact that, well, that therefore makes it yellow. It makes it a few bottles in this category maybe for special occasions. Certainly, I wouldn't rush out to buy one necessarily, but if you have the means and you want to try something that's lightly peated and not too bad, this might be the shot. Anyway, cheers everyone. Here's to lightly peated whiskey. See you next time. I'm going to understand peat